Welcome back to Big Movie Mouth Off, the podcast where three Salt Lake City-based critics put up their dukes about film. I'm Jeff Counts.
I'm Brooks Bird.
And I'm Adam McDonald.
We are in episode 28. I think it's 28. And
Wow.
it's been a year since the last time we talked about the Utah Film Critics Association voting meeting.
Yes.
And that episode was a lot of fun. So we decided we'd do it again. Every year we vote for a whole slate of awards. I would say that last year, the three of us were on balance pretty disappointed with how much love Past Lives got.
Yeah.
We were all pretty bummed about that. And I think this year I would categorize the two of you as pretty content with the results of the voting.
Generally, yeah.
Yeah.
I would categorize myself as less content with the results. So I think there's going to be a lot of interesting conversation today. So just like last year, we're going to chat right now about what the UFC got right, what it got wrong, and what it didn't even consider at all. And we're going to start with Best Non-English Feature. Brooks, tell us what we nominated for that category.
For non-English feature, we had All We Imagine Is Light, Amelia Perez, Flo, I'm Still Here, and Red Rooms.
I think it's good to start off with one that we all feel really good about. Red Rooms won, and Flow was the runner-up. Now, Flow is a little bit controversial, but I do think the fact that it was made by a Latvian team makes it worthy of being in this category. I felt great about the choice of Red Rooms. What about you guys?
I loved Red Rooms. It's a pretty vicious movie,
It is.
which is funny because it's also surprisingly subtle in what it's presenting the audience. And I can't believe that they get away with so much with just sound effects and lighting and just some of the cinematography and the editing. It's probably the creepiest movie of the year, and hopefully more people see it.
It was a very surprising win, I want to say, almost
I
for
think so too.
Best
I,
Non-English.
yeah, I was too. I mean, it's
'Cause it's not-
basically a horror movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, and horror movies don't do well at the award seasons, but this one was awesome.
Well, it's more psychological than horror. And
Yeah.
Yes.
yeah, we forgot to mention it's a French-Canadian film. I would have been fine with Flow, and I would have really been fine with I'm Still Here. I loved
Ooh,
that movie.
That was fantastic.
And I would have voted for that without question until I saw the Red Rooms. The Red Rooms is just too good. And so I think we're all in agreement. Let's move along to Best Animated Feature. You're going to hear something familiar here. Adam, read them down.
Well, we're going to repeat what we just said. So we had Flow, Inside Out 2, Memoir of a Snail, Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Foul, and of course, The Wild Robot.
I thought this year's class was much stronger than last year's.
Yes.
Yeah.
Top to bottom, really great. There was no Boy and the Heron in this year's class, which was a real, I thought, stinker last year. Inside Out, to me, is the weakest movie on the list.
Exactly.
And that's really saying
That
something.
says a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Brooks, tell them who won.
So the Wild Robot won, of
Whoop, whoop.
course.
Yep.
And Flo was the runner-up again.
We talked so much about The Wild Robot, both on the show where we reviewed it and on our individual top fives. It was on all three of our lists. Clearly, we loved it. And Flow was on my list, and I talked about it a little bit. So I think people know why I liked it, but you guys agreed that this movie deserved to be runner-up.
If it wasn't for Wild Robot, it would have been my winner.
Yeah.
I think it just presented itself such a unique way of like, hey, we're doing this, animated animal film, and it completely subverted what you were expecting. And it was gorgeously done. It was beautiful. It was still heartfelt, but you did it just with animals acting like animals.
Brooks, do you think it's interesting that both of the movies that won are animal movies? One of them they talk and one of them nobody talks.
That is kind of a funny comparison with the two of them, yeah. With Flo, yeah, it's a fantastic movie. It came out of nowhere. I had no idea it existed until it was suggested that we all needed to watch it. However, my favorite for runner-up probably would have been Memoir of a Snail.
It's so good.
Hey,
Yes.
you want to talk about a movie that really comes out of nowhere. It's just this Australian, crazy, adult claymation animated masterpiece.
You'd think that in the stop motion category, nothing's ever going to beat Wallace and Gromit, but I don't feel like the Wallace and Gromit movies ever take any risks. They tell the story
No.
straight down the middle.
They're the
It's
same thing, yeah.
Yeah. You know what you're going to get, and you get exactly that. And it's like ordering a dish at a restaurant that you've had before. It's very comforting, those movies. But Memoir of a Snail, the same kind of artistry, but just an incredibly good script and story. Well, another very strong class was the documentary area. So, Brooks, take us through that list.
So we had The Remarkable Life of Evelyn, Skywalker's A Love Story, Sugarcane, Superman, the Christopher Reeve story, and Will and Harper.
What won was actually a tie between The Remarkable Life of Ebeline and Superman, Christopher Reeve story. So it was a dead heat. We had no runner up. Those two movies tied. I actually think those two movies were the best in this class, as much as I liked Will and Harper. Skywalker's, I think that movie for me suffered from the fact that I saw it a year ago.
Mm.
So it made it difficult to vote it up. But
Yeah, and it
what did
felt
you
a
guys
lot more
think?
scripted
It
than
really did.
most documentaries.
Yeah,
I
It's
actually
true.
was going for Will and Harper. For me, Will and Harper was just a much more timely story, especially going into what we're facing, with the political landscape that we have right now.
For trans
very
people,
true.
right?
For trans people and any kind of underrepresented or
Right.
marginalized people anywhere. The one thing that sticks in my mind is Harper has to go in that dive bar and she's like, "No, Will, stay outside. I need to do this myself." Just to see how she would get along in a world without Will Ferrell tagging along next to her because everyone loves Will Ferrell, so you
Mhm.
can go anywhere and you'll be safe. But for me, that was my number one pick for a documentary. But Evelyn and Superman, those
Oh,
were absolutely fantastic.
Evelyn in particular takes a big swing and hits it. I thought that
oh,
movie
yeah, a
was the
huge one.
riskiest of the
Hmm.
five, and I think it could have absolutely fallen on its face. I mean, you literally do not have the voice of the main character available to you at all, except in the digital world. And to take his story and recast it essentially as a video game cutscene was just brilliant. And they pulled it off. I don't know how they did it, but they pulled it off. The Christopher Reeves movie, Brooks, is a little bit more straightforward.
I mean, I'm not even like a huge Christopher Reeve fan. I mean, I obviously appreciate him and respect
Yeah.
him, but I didn't grow up watching Superman. It wasn't my thing at the time, but just watching that movie, I think I texted Adam and you both about 10 minutes in, and I was like,
Yeah.
you two are gonna cry this entire movie.
Let's move on to a group that I don't know that we're going to have as much agreement on. Best visual effects. Adam, take us through the nominees.
So we were looking at Better Man, Dune Part 2, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, Nosferatu, and The Substance.
Better Man, I thought would win. It got runner up. What did
The-
win was The Substance. And you may have heard on the last episode when Brooks mentioned The Substance as one of his favorite of the year. I groaned a little. This movie did not work for me as well as it did for, honestly, most everyone else in the room. To me, that movie falls apart the minute they decide to fully invest in the gore, all of the prosthetics. The grosser that movie got, the less effective I thought it was, and the less good I thought the stars were. That's my personal take. So I do not agree with this one.
The Substance winning versus Better Man kind of brings up my beef with the whole category. It's best visual effects. The Substance was like 99% practical
Right.
effects. So that would be special effects, which in every other case has its own category. I mean, I love The Substance. I love what they did. It's amazing what they were able to pull off with all of the practicality of it. And it was very hands-on with the director. She literally gets her hands bloody at every chance she got. But I only don't like it winning because it doesn't belong in this category.
Do you agree, Adam, that there's a difference between effects that are done in camera and those that are done in post?
Oh, definitely. And we discussed this during the voting for this was they're separate things. Do they belong in the same category? And it's almost like, do we split this in two or do we name this
Just
best practical and or digital effects
or just best effects, I
or
guess,
best
maybe.
effects? Yeah. For me, almost, yeah, of course, digital effects are amazing and there's the technology behind it. And that's actually
Hmm.
why I was picking Better Man because Weta had to
Oh.
reinvent how they do any kind of this stuff to do this, chimpanzee on stage. But I'm a sucker for practical effects.
Oh
That's
yeah.
one thing I will always love, and that's why like certain directors like Fede Alvarez or Terrifier, as much as it's like gross out movie, like it's all practical, and I will always
Hmm.
give practical an edge if you can do it that way and you don't have to do it digital. Now, some things you have to do digital, like
Yeah.
Dune, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, you'd have to do digital effects.
Right.
But if you're leaning on that instead of practical, that takes points away from me.
And Nosferatu kind of lands in the middle because it's a good mix of both.
I think so too.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's a perfect example of what's wrong with this
Yeah.
category.
I'm probably more seduced by the style of Nosferatu than the technical achievement of the effects because they're not as spectacular as what happens in the other
No.
films, certainly. But the style of it, I think, is so great that maybe I'm misconstruing my enthusiasm for that as enthusiasm for the effects. But all right, well, the substance won. I don't think it should have. You guys are fine with it. And I know you both loved Better Man, and I did too. I think Better Man was
Well,
great.
Better Man was my number one choice. That was the one
Yeah.
I wanted to win. And this is
Yeah. I
so
think I voted for it also.
for those who don't know, when I'm at this thing again and I'm, running the show, announcing nominees and winners, like I don't talk much and you guys don't either. This is one of the few that I sat up and said, yeah, this is why I think it deserves best visual effects. And it got runner up, which is fine.
Hmm.
But again, Weta reinventing how they do a digital creation on screen was for me a huge thing.
One more before we take a break. We're talking now about best film editing. Brooks, take us through the nominees.
We've got The Brutalist, Dune Part 2, Nickel Boys, September 5, and The Substance.
What was that last one?
The Substance.
Oh.
Again.
All right. Well, again,
Which is one of the runner-ups.
very
Yes.
strong category. So September 5 won, and we had a tie for the runner-up position between Nickel Boys and The Substance. If you haven't seen Nickel Boys, it's done in a first-person perspective,
Hmm.
and it's a pretty interesting conceit, and it's well executed. I was thrilled to see that movie get some recognition in this category, but there's no doubt in my mind that the tightness, the incredible tension of September 5 had to be rewarded. I could not
Oh,
agree
yeah.
with our
Yeah.
colleagues more.
I mean, that movie is like 90 minutes, and there's not a second you could cut out of it now. And I can't imagine it being longer. It's like, it's perfect.
Brooks, I was
Yeah.
remembering our last episode when you referred to September 5 as wham bam, thank you, ma'am.
Yes.
And editing's more than just the length of the film. Obviously, the way it's moved around and the way the scenes are set up, as you're going from set piece to set piece. But, as far as a movie being tight and being just completely killer, no filler, the last movie I could think of that pulled this off was Drive. And that was how long ago?
Mm.
I mean, it
Oh,
was at least 10 years ago.
yeah, it feels like more.
But yeah, the fact that you couldn't take 30 seconds out of this movie and felt like you missed a big part of it is just such a credit to the editor and that they knew the story they were telling and they knew how to get there exactly in the right amount of time and exactly with the right amount of scenes and moments. So yeah, I'm very happy this one won that. So
All right, full agreement from the big movie boys on best film editing for September 5. We're going to take a little break, catch our breath, and then when we come back, we'll dig right back in. We're back on Big Movie Mouth Off. We're going through all of the Utah Film Critics Association voting for 2025, talking about what we liked, what we didn't, and everything in between. The next category is Best Original Score. Adam, what were the nominees?
so we had The Brutalist, Dune Part 2, just so we could annoy the Academy, The Wild Robot, Nosferatu, and Challengers.
Okay,
Yeah.
couldn't agree less with where we end up on this one. Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross won for Challengers, and Robin Carolyn was runner-up for Nosferatu. Totally happy to see Nosferatu get some love,
Mm.
but I do not think Challengers deserved this award. I was really surprised by what I was hearing in the room. I'm not sure about you
Yeah.
guys, but this one to me is a bummer.
It's two tracks. They recorded two tracks. There's the main track that you hear constantly for almost 2.5 hours. And then there's the one track that's a little different when they're having a conversation on a beach. And that's it. And the rest of it's just pounding you over the head with 9-inch nails. And I did not want to do anything like an animal at any point during that movie. At least not because of the music.
Someone in the room said, I couldn't believe that this movie actually made me like tennis and the score was a part of that. It's not a tennis movie, first of all. It's
No,
it's like
no.
calling Better Man a monkey movie. It's just not what's really happening. The score, to me, doesn't hold a candle to the rest of the scores on this list. I would have
No.
voted for any of them over it.
I did too, but
Yeah.
the two that were standouts to me were Nosferatu. I would have preferred that one. Also, Dune Part 2 is Counts, you said this a while back that there's two kinds of scores. There's the ones that work and the ones that do work. And those are
Yeah.
two that to me felt like they were characters in the movie. So in
Yeah.
Dune, the score was just as important as the sand dunes and the sandworms and the Fremen and everyone else. And the score in Nosferatu was equally making it as eerie and everything else that
Playing
Orlov.
its part.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also felt like the score of The Brutalist was
Ooh.
really doing excellent service to that movie's tone and style.
Oh,
Mhm.
yes.
What happens with the music in that iconic moment where they look through the ship and the Statue of Liberty's looming over them, kind of
Oh,
upside
yeah.
down in
The
the view of the
poster.
camera. It's the poster shot, but the music in that moment is stunning. So I couldn't agree less with the UFCA on Best Original Score. But let's move
Ditto.
on now to Best Cinematography. Brooks, you're up. Tell us the nominees.
We got Dune Part 2, Nosferatu, Nickel Boys, The Brutalist, and Conclave.
All right, first mention of Conclave. Interesting. That took a while. So, Nickel Boys won, and Nosferatu was runner-up. I'm okay with this. Adam?
Hmm.
Yeah, because Nickel Boys, if the cinematography and everything else didn't work, that was, like you said, the main conceit. That had to be
Hmm.
the most important part of the film above. And it wasn't a bad film or that the script or the acting wasn't good because it really was. But if that didn't work, then nothing else did. So
Yeah.
you
Totally.
had to have pitch perfect cinematography to make the whole movie flow.
Brooks, you loved Nosferatu, though, as well, right?
I mean, there's so many things that they also obviously had to do in camera and just the lighting and
Hmm.
the sets. I mean, it's a beautiful movie. It's gorgeous from start to finish.
It is stunning.
But yes, Nickel Boys, I feel out of all of these nominees deserve the win because the cinematography and the editing tells the whole story.
Another strong class, though, don't you think, Brooks? Like, really good,
Oh
all
yeah.
five. Yeah.
No,
Um,
Conclave was it was just a movie.
I mean, yeah, Conclave
Static
might
shots.
it might stick out in comparison to these others, but I
But
I did think the pacing of that movie, everything that's happening backstage at that conclave is very monochromatic. It's just three or four colors in play at all times. And
Yeah.
I feel like to make that visually interesting
true.
had to do with angles and cuts and all sorts of people. Well, that's editing, but had to do with the angles and setups. And I was very
'Cause it
impressed with it.
could have
So
all just melded together.
totally. But anyways, love the fact that Nickel Boys won. It's the only one of these that I thought was better than Nosferatu. So now we're moving on to an interesting category. We decided after last year to just have one screenplay category. We learned last year that no one in the business understands the difference
Nope.
between original and adapted anymore.
No.
So why are we even trying?
Yeah, and it started out with Barbie being relegated to best adapted screenplay from the Academy when everyone's
Ridiculous.
like, "This is new. Like, what are
It's
you
not
talking about?
based
This
on
is
anything.
Right.
it's not based on anything. There's nothing. I mean, it's a doll, right? So what does this make sense for anything?" And there was so much back and forth about, well, should it be this or the studio on our screeners will always say, "Hey, we're pushing for these categories." So all of a sudden they're like, "Hey, we're going for best adapted screenplay." And then the Golden Globes gives it best original screenplay, the WGA gives it best adapted. Like no one knows. No
Yeah.
one.
They
So
do
we're
the same
like,
thing with sequels.
yeah, sequels, and sometimes even with supporting and lead actor and actresses. So
Hmm.
Yeah,
last year
totally.
we just all took a vote. We're like, hey, screw it. We're doing one category because that's one less thing to vote on, first of all, which is nice.
All right. So give us the five nominees for best screenplay. No modifier, just screenplay.
So The Brutalist, His Three Daughters, A Real Pain, September 5, and Tuesday.
First mention of Tuesday. I just want to
That's a
mark that.
list.
I'm
Yay.
super excited. That is a very strong list. Does get into an interesting conundrum with this category, and it's the difference between a screenplay and the dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
We'll talk about that in a moment. But A Real Pain was runner up, and His Three Daughters won, I think, largely based on how good the dialogue is.
Hmm.
Yes.
Oh, I totally agree. Yeah. This movie is almost nothing but dialogue. It's three sisters in an apartment while their dad's dying in another room.
Yeah.
That's all it is just three characters sitting around talking. It's basically a play, and it would
That's what it
probably
felt
make a
like. Yeah.
really good one.
Adam, can you describe for me why so many people in the room liked A Real Pain? I'm lukewarm on that one.
See, I absolutely loved The Real Pain. I thought
Hmm.
they really nailed the estranged family dynamics. It was like a lived-in movie, like these two brothers, Jesse Eisenberg and Kieran Culkin, not brothers, cousins.
Right.
They felt like if I met them on the street and they were just hanging out talking, I thought, oh, these are real people who are related to each other. Obviously, we're also poking into going back and reliving the Jewish plight with the Holocaust and the concentration camps and everything. But they just nailed everything so perfectly. And there's such fun little moments where you're laughing one second and then you're emotional the next. The line about they're not going to arrest two Jews in Poland for having marijuana on them was to me the funniest line in the movie this entire year. I was sitting alone in a hotel room in Denver when I watched it and lost my mind. I had to pause it. I was laughing so hard. Uh, but yeah, for me, Real Pain, it's in my top 10 this year. I haven't really solidified where it was, but it just
Really?
completely
Top
worked
10?
for me. Top 10, yeah, I really, really like
Wow.
this movie. One of the few I watched twice because I watched it by myself and then once with Clark. He really loved it. It just everything clicked for me, and I think it comes down to mainly the performances, but it had a tight, good script too. So
What did you wish had won, Brooks?
Honestly, it's kind of a toss-up between September 5 and Tuesday.
I thought Tuesday as a screenplay, as a story, was the most interesting in this group. I would have liked to have seen something that was just more than snappy dialogue win. Let's move on to the Vice Martin Award. If you don't recall from last year, the two founders of Big Movie Mouth Off were Jeff Michael Weiss and Jimmy Martin, two beloved film critics that we lost. And we remember them publicly with this award, which is acknowledging an outstanding performance in a science fiction, fantasy, or horror film. Three genres that the two of them loved to talk about. So, Brooks, take us through the nominees for this year's Vice Martin Award.
We've got Bill Skarsgård for Nosferatu, David Johnson, Alien Romulus, Demi Moore, The Substance, Hugh Grant in Heretic, and Lily Rose Depp for Nosferatu again.
The runner-up was Demi Moore for The Substance, and the winner was David Johnson for Alien Romulus. And one of us, I don't remember who it was in the room, but they said, "God, I'm so glad somebody mentioned David
yes,
Johnson because
Mhm.
we saw it so early. We kind of all forgot about him. We were all thinking Bill Skarsgård. We were all thinking Lily Rose Depp. I'm sure there were people thinking Hugh Grant, but no one was thinking about David Johnson, and he won. I think it's great because his performance was amazing. It was basically, I think you said it, Adam, two roles. He had to do
Mhm.
two things.
yeah.
So I'm good with it. I'm not going to say anything about Demi Moore and Substance. I'm sure people are tired of hearing from me on that. But what did you guys think about David?
As Adam said, it's two roles. He's this is stuttering, mumbling, awkward, weirdo robot at the beginning, and then gets to literally switch gears and turn into this badass.
Is he the one you wanted, Adam?
Yes, no, he was one of the ones that was. I think he was number two on my ballot behind Lupita Nyong'o
He
for
was one of
Quiet
my
Place.
nominees too.
Mhm.
Yeah, so when someone, I forget who it was, like you said, stood up and said, "Oh, I forgot about him." I'm like, "That's why I nominated him because he did give one of the best performances of the year as far as in this genre. There's no way he would have made Best Supporting because we have the prestige movies for that. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
if it wasn't for him, I probably would have gone with Lily Rose Depp because I really feel that her character is the heart and soul of Nosferatu. As much as that movie lacked a heart and soul, uh,
It had
Bill
her literal heart and soul.
yeah. I mean, Bill Skarsgård's fantastic, just the way he disappears into all his roles.
Yeah.
But she really is what holds the whole movie together. And if you didn't have a strong enough actor for that, it would have not worked at all.
And especially with it being her, because she's honestly not been that great in the past.
Yeah.
Well, you said it when we reviewed it that it's the best thing she's ever done, and I totally
Hmm.
agree. I think she's excellent in it. One person that I've nominated that didn't make the cut, I bet I was the only person who nominated him, and I just want to mention it because I want people to go check out this movie, was Justice Smith, and I Saw the TV Glow.
Still need to
Fantastic
see
movie.
it.
Yeah, me too.
Fantastic movie, and he's great. One more category, and then we'll take another break. This is Best Ensemble Cast. Adam, take us through those nominations.
All right. We've got Conclave, His Three Daughters, September 5, Sing Sing, and Wicked.
Really glad to see Sing Sing get nominated here. I
Yes.
thought that was
Yes.
a really great ensemble cast. It didn't win and it didn't get runner up. What got runner up was His Three Daughters. No surprise, based on what we said before.
Right,
People were
yeah.
really
Mhm.
enthusiastic about that cast. But the winner was, of course,
The Perfect.
September 5.
Yes.
In terms of like the energy pinging around a room and no one person being any more important than another, it's got a great cast, but it was a group project.
And it had to be. I mean, that's the whole purpose of the movie is just everybody working together to try to, stay on top of what's happening and figure out how they're going to do it.
I would have preferred Adam to see Sing Sing get some
Mm.
recognition here over His Three
Yeah.
Daughters. Do you agree?
Yeah, that's about where I was going to. So
Me
again,
too.
this is one of the ones where September 5 is amazing. I'm so happy it won. But I did vote for Sing Sing because
That
for
was
me, it's a movie about acting.
that was my
You
first
had,
pick, yeah.
yeah, people who aren't actors, outside of like Coleman Domingo and some other people, and you took these people, and again, if one of them didn't work, the whole thing fell apart because you've got people telling their own story, and now we're going to sub in some Hollywood actor who wasn't there and couldn't present the right emotion because they didn't live through it.
Hmm.
And I think Brooks, you might have said it either earlier when we were talking about it, was the movie plays out like a documentary.
Yes.
And it's very, very difficult to get an actor to act so realistically that they're portraying a character to where it feels like you're watching real life. And Sing Sing was the only movie this year that did that. Now, I am happy with September 5, but for my money, Sing Sing was the one that should have taken this.
We're going to take one last break and then come back and talk about all the prestige categories, the acting awards, the directing award, and of course, best picture. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back on episode 28 of Big Movie Mouth Off. I'm Jeff Counts.
I'm Brooks Bird.
And I'm Adam McDonald.
We're continuing to discuss the UFCA voting, all of the things we loved, all of the things we hated. This is Best Supporting Performance Female, Brooks. The nominees were
Ariana Grande, apparently Butera for Wicked. Danielle Deadweiler, The Piano Lesson. Felicity Jones in The Brutalist. Monica Barbaro, A Complete Unknown. And Zoe Saldana for Emilia Perez.
all right, Adam, who won this one?
So this one was Danielle Debweiler for the piano lesson
Mm.
with the runner-up, which was surprising, Ariana Grande Butera in Wicked.
Let's talk about the hard one
Oh,
first,
man.
which is the Ariana Grande thing. Wicked was a really polarizing title. There were a lot of people who loved it. There were a lot of people that thought Ariana Grande was amazing, carried the whole film. Film would have died without her. I mean, there was just a lot of love for her in that room. And there was also a lot of people, I think, were just shrugging. Like, I mean, what are we talking about here? This
Why
movie
is she
was
here?
fine. Yeah.
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 Why is she in this category? So I'm kind of the latter group. Where did you guys come down on Ariana?
I mean, she kind of surprised me because she was at least funnier than I thought she'd be, which is good because at least she was entertaining. But I mean, for this, no, not even close, especially considering all she was up against.
Yeah, some strong competition. The stand-up song where you can see the character of Glinda and how she's going to portray it is popular.
Right.
And every Glinda makes it their
Yes.
own. And Ariana Grande Butera did it so that she had her own popular. And yeah, there were moments that, of course, they're aping Kristen Chenoweth, but then everyone does because it's such an
That's
iconic performance.
that's how it's
Uh,
written too.
yeah, and there were moments where I forgot I was watching Ariana Grande. And that for me is a big deal. It's like when Lady Gaga was in A Star is Born, like all of a sudden you forget you're watching Lady Gaga. So, do I think she gave the better performance to where she deserved runner up? No, I think there's better people in here.
I think so
Danielle
too. Yeah.
Debweiler, 100% agree with. I'm happy with that.
She
Um,
absolutely was
Ah,
the right
she's
person to win.
yes.
so good.
It's difficult in a film where the men never stop talking
Hmm.
for the female
Yep.
character to still hold the center. And she did. I thought it was beautiful how much she stayed at the heart of that film with all of those men just chattering around her nonstop. It's a very noisy movie from the male standpoint, and
Hmm.
she's this quiet presence. All right, moving on now to the male category of Best Supporting. Adam, read those.
So we had Clarence Macklin from Sing Sing, Edward Norton from A Complete Unknown, Guy Pearce in The Brutalist, Kieran Culkin in A Real Pain, Stanley Tucci in Conclave.
Kieran Culkin from A Real Pain was the runner-up, but the winner, Brooks, was
Clarence Macklin, baby.
you called him
Ah,
out last episode. You called it.
yeah, his
Yeah.
performance is so good, and he's playing himself, but also kind of a character, like a version of himself. And considering we know the background because we're watching it, he was in prison, and to make that an amazing character and performance of yourself, it was mind blowing to me.
I would not have voted for Stanley Tucci or Edward Norton over Kieran Culkin as the
No.
runner-up. I think their
No,
performances are very professional and they're fine. But Guy Pearce got overlooked here because Guy Pearce is asked to do so much in The Brutalist, and he is there for every second of it.
Yeah, I mean, he almost comes across as a lead character in that, even though he isn't, and his screen time obviously is less than Adrian Brody. I think he gives the performance of his career so far
Yeah.
in The Brutalist. I thought everyone was going to come back as Kieran Culkin
Yep.
because that's everyone's. He's been dominating every single award race, and the fact that he did not win took me by surprise. That being said, though, like I wasn't upset with anyone in this category. I mean, Edward Norton probably would have been my last choice, but there was nothing bad in here. It was a very strong category, and I'm just as happy with Clarence Macklin because I think he was magnificent. So
I think Clarence Macklin's great too. I'm super glad he won. I think Kieran Culkin was excellent, but I don't think it's that hard to play unlikable people. And we'll circle back to that topic momentarily. Brooks, why don't you take us through best lead performance female, the nominees?
We've got the correct performance in the lead with Cynthia Erivo for Wicked,
yes,
Demi Moore in The Substance, Julia Louis-Dreyfus for Tuesday, yay, and Marianne Jean-Baptiste for Hard Truths, and Mikey Madison in Honora.
Interesting category. A lot of discussion around this one. There's a lot of people in the room that didn't like Cynthia Erivo. There's a lot of people that didn't like Tuesday being mentioned for anything, which I don't understand. There were a lot of people that were very, very enthusiastic about Marianne Jean-Baptiste. She got runner-up, and Demi Moore, of course, won for The Substance. We'll come back to her. I know, Adam, you voted for Marianne Jean-Baptiste. Please convince me. I found her performance to be so one note
Yep,
and so unappealing that I just never found my way in.
I
well, that
couldn't
was the whole
finish it.
point. She was an unappealing person. This is someone who's very brusque, who's very just says whatever's on her mind, doesn't care about anyone else. I would say about herself, but she really doesn't even care about herself. She hates herself. And I think we've all known someone like this person. She's abrasive. You mentioned about, playing someone that no one likes, and she does that. But then there's a scene where it changes. And I'm going to say it's a scene of an anniversary of something tragic happening. Everything about her like just switches on a dime, and everything you think you know about her now, it's like, oh, this makes sense. I get it. And maybe it's just because I'm such a huge advocate for mental health and seeing people who've gone through trauma. In fact, I have some friends finally starting therapy who are like, oh, I've never dealt with this and I've been dealing with it. It's been my life for 40 years. I should really, really dive into this. And it changes them. But that being said, I'm not upset with who won because, again, I think it was a very, very strong category. But for me, it was just good to see her come back, show what she can do, and then for me, blow me away.
You should be upset about who didn't win, Adam. It should have been Julia
I
Louis-Dreyfus.
agree with that too. Yeah,
Yes.
she was my second.
Brooks, can you explain to me why Demi Moore won this? Like, I don't know which part of this is actually acting, so help me out.
She wasn't even my initial vote. I voted for Julia first and then had to vote again, which is funny considering how much I love The Substance. But the two of them, Demi Moore and Margaret Qualley, gave kind of like a co-performance, which makes sense in the context of the
Yeah.
movie. But I don't know. Her performance was kind of one note as well. Kind of played the same character until she had to get crazy.
I think the more prosthetics and makeup they put on her, the worse she got, frankly. I think she's so good in the first part of the movie, but I don't know how you call a lead performance one where the person is lying on the floor inanimate for half the film. I don't think this should have been considered a lead performance, and I don't think it was a very good one. That's just my personal take. This should have been Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
Mhm.
Honora, it was getting tons of love a couple of months ago, but I think it's fallen off a little bit. People aren't talking about it as much
Oh
as
no,
they
it is. The
once were.
BAFTAs just came out and they're
Yeah.
all about it. The whole
Really?
world
Oh,
is.
really? Oh, wow.
Oh yeah, best picture, best actress. It feels like this year's Past Lives.
Yep.
Yeah.
Couldn't be a more different film, but yeah, I think it's being
Yes.
overvalued in exactly the same way. I called Past Lives that year's Coda. This year, Honora is this year's Past
Oh,
Lives.
Coda.
All right, moving right along. Adam is going to take us through best lead performance male. I don't think there's any surprises in this one.
Yeah, so we've got Adrian Brody for The Brutalist, Coleman Domingo for Sing Sing, Daniel Craig for Queer, Ray Fiennes for Conclave, Timothy Chalamet for A Complete Unknown.
Pretty good list there. I wish there was more mention of queer in our nominations. This is the only one. I think it's really disappointing. And he didn't even win. He was my first vote and he didn't get there. The person who did win was Coleman Domingo for Sing Sing, which honestly, I'm completely happy with. I think he was amazing in that film. Adrian Brody got runner up for The Brutalist. I think that's probably the right order. Coleman Domingo is bigger in his film than Brody is in his. But Adam, I know you love Daniel Craig too. Were you disappointed like I was?
No. Again, for so many of these categories, I would have been happy with anyone, but Daniel Craig was probably lower on my list than most people would expect. Coleman Domingo's winning, though, that was my first vote because he carries that film, and it goes back to Brooks, what you mentioned about it felt like a documentary. Like, not only is it a documentary, but you're the lead person in this documentary and the only person who didn't live through it, but you still make us think you did.
Hmm.
So he was fantastic. I always loved that. I would have put Ray Fiennes over Adrian Brody. I think he and Stanley Tucci were obviously the best part of Conclave. That movie's focused solely on performances. And then Daniel Craig would have come in a little bit lower, but I couldn't be more happy than Coleman Domingo.
All right, Brooks, last word on Coleman. I think it's really a challenge to play in a movie as a professional with amateurs, especially
Oh,
if the point of the movie is that you're playing a person who thinks they're a professional among amateurs. It's a real trick, isn't it?
oh yeah. I mean, yeah, he's an amazing actor who has to play somebody who thinks they're a great actor and
Yeah.
might not be, but there's also a scene where he has a conversation with the real person at the beginning of the movie.
Mhm.
And so that also shows, I'm sure, how involved, they were with the film. I'm sure he had to also stay on his toes constantly.
Yeah, Coleman Domingo, Sing Sing. All right, we're in the last two categories. Home stretch here, guys. It's been a long show. Thank you for sticking with me. I've been dying to complain about some of this stuff with you. I'm not going to complain about this next one. I'm actually pretty happy with it. Best achievement in direction. Brooks, who did we nominate?
We've got Brady Corbett for The Brutalist, Dennis Villeneuve. I can never
The
say it right.
Denis Villeneuve.
What you said for Dune Part 2, Edward Berger for Conclave, Sean Baker for Anora, and Tim Fellbaum for September 5.
If you're wondering if Brooks actually just struggled with Sean Baker, yes, he did. He struggled with every single name on that list, including Sean
Well,
Baker.
Sean Baker was for a different reason.
Well,
One of
all
these
right.
things is not like the other.
I'm really happy with the way this category ended up. We voted for Denis Villeneuve as the runner-up and Brady Corbett for the Brutalist. Any surprises for you guys in this one, Brooks?
I mean, Tim Fellbaum would have been a good choice
Yeah, I agree.
in here as well. Denny gave us a movie that seemed unfilmable, and especially the second half,
Yeah.
and just knocked it out of the park.
That man has taken two Don't You Dare Touch This
Oh,
franchises
yes.
and absolutely nailed them. I'm talking, of course, about Blade Runner and Dune. I mean,
Hmm.
the guy just cannot do wrong. Where are you on this category, Adam? Were you happy?
No. I really wanted Tim Felbon to win for September 5.
Hmm.
We've
Yeah.
talked about how it won best editing and everything else, and like you don't get that. You don't get that tight of a story without a director who is that intense and that focused on it. And it didn't feel over directed. It didn't feel
Yeah.
like it had been directed to an inch of its life where you're like, oh, this thing had no room to breathe. You felt like the actors were able to make the story their own, but you had to have the right person telling the story, or else it wouldn't have worked as well as it did. So I like The Brutalist. It's not even in my top five. I think it's in my top 10, to be honest. So I would have been happy with Tim Felbon winning and Denis Villeneuve taking second. There was a lot of discussion about can we reward someone for, technically speaking, maybe a third of a film? Because if we get Dune Messiah, we've talked about the fact that you have to look at films in a vacuum. And I
Yeah.
feel that when we're giving awards away as well, it's the same thing. Like, I don't care what you did with Dune 1, but Dune
Yeah.
1 could have been a stinker and you learned from it and made Dune 2, which was a masterpiece, which I absolutely
Hmm.
adored. You have to look at them individually on their own merits and not based on what's coming or what has come before. So
Did you say a moment ago that The Brutalist isn't even in your top 10?
I don't think so.
Wow.
What is the matter with you, Adam?
I liked it. I really thought it was great, but it didn't resonate with me for some reason. I don't know. Maybe because I didn't get the 15-minute intermission.
I
I
need
was
to
shocked how much I loved it.
I need to see what your 10 are. I'll give you at least five that you can kick out and replace with The Brutalist. I think that you're totally right about Tim Feilbaum. To give your editor that much control,
Hmm.
probably the best thing he did. He's got such a light touch. and he allows the people behind the camera and at the editing desk to do the work. And I think that's a testament to his trust in his team.
I will give Brandy Corbett or Corbet a huge props, and maybe I need to rethink this. They made that 3.5 hour epic for $10 million.
Yeah.
So Robert Rodriguez does stuff on a dime. He could probably learn from him. So
Totally.
I will say everything they accomplished in that movie, and it was a fantastic movie. Maybe it is in my top 10. I just haven't really had a chance to fully sit down and parse through everything past 5. I will say that's a huge achievement for him to accomplish so much with so little.
It's like
So,
this year's Godzilla.
yeah.
I'm telling you right now, it is in your top 10. I won't accept anything else. It is in your
What
top
about
10.
top 11?
Well,
Maybe a baker's dozen.
speaking of one more than we expected, let's talk about
Yes.
the nominees for Best Picture. We finally made it to the end, and we had an interesting situation in our nomination process, didn't we, Adam?
Yes, we did. So the way this works is that we have a weighted ballot. So your first picture is worth 5 points, your second picture is worth 4, and so on. We add all them up, and the top 5 point getters are on the ballot. If 2 or more are tied, then we look at the number of votes that it got. And we actually had this one where 2 films got the same number of votes and the same number of points. So we ended up with 6, which I've never seen in our Best Picture race before or any other category. So we ended up with The Brutalist, Conclave, Dune Part 2, The Substance, Tuesday, and The Wild Robot.
I am thrilled that Tuesday made this list.
Mm-hmm.
I knew Tuesday wouldn't win, but I'm just so glad that this wonderful movie got nominated. The 2 films that did rise to the top, I feel like the 2 of you handpicked because
You heard my TED Talk.
I did hear your the runner-up was The Substance, and Adam, I'm going to let you say it. What
The
won?
Wild Robot.
As you predicted.
What's really funny is one of our members back in October predicted The Wild Robot as the winner and just reposted it on X that he's like, maybe I'm a mind reader. So,
Yeah.
No, the movie's just that good.
yes.
I don't think anyone disagrees with that, Brooks. It is a fantastic movie. I'm totally okay that it won. I think it's great. It's a very UFCA choice. We are not afraid to nominate animated films. I do not understand why The Substance got so much love from UFCA. I think Brooks has been campaigning around the room. I think he's been talking to people offline.
I surprisingly haven't. I don't know. Maybe I'm the mind reader.
Well, it's funny. We joked that, you talked about the UFCA is not afraid to do an animated film. So we have this joke, and it's actually true, that we always have one category where we do something that no one expects.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I joked when I did my TED Talk that, hey, this could be our one. And the fact that we gave it number 1 in The Substance, which is a horror movie, to essentially number 2 is the most UFCA win I think we could have possibly had.
We went full UFCA this year.
Yes.
We did. We went full anti-Jeff too. But because, except for The Wild Robot, I really don't have any trouble with that. I would have been happy to see any of the others win over The Substance.
Conclave's the only one I don't think belongs in there. If we had to narrow it down to 5, that one's probably the weakest
Yeah.
one. Which still
Yeah.
says a lot
Yeah.
And I would
about
have,
our nominees.
The Wild Robot hadn't won, I would have been firmly behind Tuesday, because Tuesday is just such a wonderful film, and I'm so glad that it got some recognition because it's not really popping up anywhere else in the award circuit, and I believe it's something that people should go see, whether or not you even like the characters in it. Just the fact that it's such a good treatise on death and grief, I loved it. So
It's a wonderful film that I think we're all going to be talking about and thinking about for years, all 3 of us. And I'm just so glad that our colleagues at least put it on the list. That's a lot. And I appreciate you guys going through that with me. As I predicted, you're happier about most of this than I am. But that being said, a lot of really interesting projects, a lot of really interesting performances. The next episode, we're going to get back to normal, review a couple of films. We'll do guilty pleasures. We'll do everything the old way.
Are.
You hear how excited Brooks is? You know what that means. More horror in my future. Until then, I'm Jeff Counts.
I'm Brooks Bird.
and I'm Adam McDonald.
Thank you for being with us. Big Movie Mouth Off was produced and edited by me, Jeff Counts, and co-hosted by Adam McDonald and Brooks Bird. Our theme music is written by Brian Z. Richards, and this show is dedicated to the memory of our founders, Jeff Michael Weiss, and my partner in crime for over 5 years, the incomparable Jimmy Martin.